Welcome back for a long-awaited episode.
Yes.
Very much awaited.
Yes.
I've been looking forward to this one. This is supposed to be the pilot episode, actually. But that's okay.
It's okay.
Scheduling conflicts and things get resolved. This is a very special episode of the Toasty Time podcast.
Yes.
With very long-awaited guest, my best friend Marshana, who's world-renowned business tycoon slash actress slash singer slash mogul slash just everything you could, everything in the template you could ask for a business personality in one person. The person of many hats is the definition. It's the embodiment of this person right here. And I'm thankful that you were able to finally get here to do this for so a topic I think was very near and dear to us, the content we enjoy. We're going to be doing an opening review for the initial episode of the new Game of Thrones series, House of Dragon, which premiered last week. And just
thank you for having me too.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited about.
You know, do a little overlay about yourself, and just things.
Oh no, you said everything that needs to be said. I need to bring you everywhere with me and just be like, do it.
Here's the talk. Introducing.
Yeah.
From the miracles.
Do your thing, bestie.
Amazing. All right. So I guess to open up for those who are maybe not too familiar with what Game of Thrones is, it's a very, I guess you could classify it as a cult classic series now.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's definitely into that zeitgeist within media and television of fantasy series, more medieval based.
Medieval, magical, family war dynamic. A battle of the ages. For sure.
All ages, politics,
incest.
That's also a thing. That's a
preservation of in effort to preserve the family name.
Exactly. A lot of pure blood mania goes on in this. It's just one of those series that if you have an interest in geopolitical, just framework for how a government can be corruptly run or, properly run within the right hands. This is just a good immersive series, something you can get into. It's very akin to, similar to a Lord of the Ring-esque, some frames there.
Yeah, like royal families.
The Crown, some things with The Crown in there as well, another popular series.
Yeah, that I love, that we need to finish at some point.
At some point, but a character who ends up in this Game of Thrones as a transition. One of the main characters in this, Daemon Targaryen, is played by one of the forefront characters from The Crown.
He plays Prince Charles, Yes,
Prince Charles. Yeah. Excellent in that as well. That gives an amazing amount of praise for me. I wasn't too familiar with a lot of his acting prior to. But,
me either. When I saw him in The Crown, that was the first I saw him in anything. And then it's like I've been seeing him in
everywhere.
A little bit of everything.
I'm happy the buzz that he's getting is good. It's great that his name seems to be getting out here and he's picking up projects. He got to do the
and he's not playing the same character every time. Like it depends on the role, which means it's a lot for his talent.
A lot of diversity, and that's a good sign to come. So hopefully, Game of Thrones, this new series, can be a good breaking out point. He's made a positive impression on me with the opening of the series. He seems like a good, commanding character that has a lot of layers to him. But I guess to set the stage for where we're going to get where we're trying to go, the original series of Game of Thrones takes place about 172 years in the future for where we're going to be starting out the new series. So very much removed.
House of the Dragon.
And it sets up in, I suppose you could say, the era of the prime of the Targaryens. They seem
they seem to be at a good, happy, peaceful place up until the point where they have to name an heir, which is where we pick it up at.
Right.
They have to name an heir, and it's some backlash that is going to forever come about as a result of that. So that's basically what the series will pick up at for House of the Dragon, 172 years before Game of Thrones. And it's like, I'm not going to lie, it's the best thing since Harry Potter to me.
Truth be told, yeah.
Because as far as like consistency and the level of writing and detail and everything, which is because it's based off a book like Harry Potter. Yes. So I guess they had a lot to work with.
I think that always shows a good reflection. Anytime you see a series or a film that's based off of source material, I think it's always easy to have a roadmap to maybe know where you're going. And though they have a bit of
because those books are so thick, like Harry Potter books, so they like you have a lot of different storylines. You take one and run,
and just run with it, and decide to do your own rendition or split it off into a different thing. And I'm interested to see where they decide to take this as far as the conflict that opens up the story. So the initial problem that I suppose sets the tone is we start off with our king, who's he's in not necessarily the twilight of his life, but I suppose he's past midlife. He seems to be in his roughly 40s, 50s, around there.
Viserys or
Viserys.
Viserys, okay.
Yeah. For our initial start off, what sets up Viserys the first is he ends up getting named after Jaehaerys, his forefather, who grows ill and has to end up naming the king, the successor through a series of things. Viserys ends up becoming the one to inherit the throne, and we find ourselves in the midst of his kingdom.
If I have that correctly, Jaehaerys is his uncle, but it's Rhaenyra's father.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought for.
That's how Rhaenyra, I believe, ends up with the nickname in the series.
The Queen that never was.
Which I enjoy that.
I love that.
I love the pettiness in Game of Thrones. There's something special about the spite that they have, because even though it's petty, it still shows a little renaissance.
That sounds like something Tyrion would have named.
Hey, name somebody. Tyrion Lannister would definitely have named someone that. And would have said it with pride every time he saw her. It reminded me of the Queen of Thorns. It's just a nice little surname to just. And nicknames are good in Game of Thrones.
They are. They so good with their words. Period.
It just adds a nice little pedigree, and it helps for when you have a series with so many characters, keeping track of people. A nickname is beneficial. Things help you.
Yeah, because it's a lot of R names.
A lot of R's, but to the Targaryen lineage, they have a history of doing a lot of repetition with their names, which is not bad.
No, I mean, yeah,
not bad.
We do. My family is like that.
Family heritage and traditions are good. We keep those up to date. It's not at all bad. The only issue is when you're trying to keep up with names, and there
it makes it very
7
difficult.
R's and 4 S's and 3 T's, and it can just be a little loaded, but that's fine. Because
that's why I'm like, it's the Queen that never was is Rhaenyra.
Not
Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra or something like that. Something with an S. Rhaenyra. Okay.
Rhaenys. Yes.
Okay.
We'll get the names by episodes.
We will. Yeah. But the Queen that never was is what she was nicknamed.
And her spite comes from, and her nickname comes from, she was one of the candidates to become queen, which would have been, a new tradition at that time, because if it's unfamiliar to you, depending on your Game of Thrones knowledge, in the Targaryen lineage, there's never been a female ruler. They've not had a queen that has run the kingdom at any point in time. They've had a lot of famous female warriors and a lot of, reputable females within their history, but they've never had a female leader up until Daenerys, who would precede a lot of generations later, almost 200 years down the line. So at this point, it's still very much common to those times, a foreign concept for a female to be a ruler.
I think they said the way they phrased it was by law and it wasn't tradition, but another word. But basically by law, the successor is supposed to be a male.
Right.
But her father clearly felt like she had the qualities it took to be a queen, which is why he called the council meeting. But
things went
patriarchy won.
And patriarchy wins, and it wins out sometimes. But that's okay, because where we're going within this series in the first episode, we may have potential to have at least maybe a short period of time something different. So Viserys the First is the king that we open with. And Viserys is getting older in years, and he has a wife, and he has 2 daughters. And he's trying to, as you would at this point in time, at that age, start preparing for who's going to take over for the throne. Now, Viserys hasn't had a son yet, so
10 miscarriages and 5 failed pregnancies.
Yes, him and his wife have tried.
They have a daughter, one daughter.
2 daughters. Two daughters. Two daughters. Two daughters. Two daughters.
We only seen one.
There's two daughters, though. They mentioned two. We haven't seen the other daughter.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I was keeping up with that. Yeah, I don't know where she is, or if she's older or married somewhere, but I don't. They definitely mentioned two daughters. So
okay,
we'll get
it's
there.
gonna get good.
It's getting good. We got time. I had my eye on it by the end. I was like, where is this other daughter that they mentioned? Right. But I didn't see her, so I'm like, I assume it's coming. We'll see this Sunday. So Viserys has two daughters, and a bunch of other not so successful attempts at having an heir.
Yes.
And in that time, as it makes sense, if you don't have a male heir and the throne has to be passed on, it goes to your next male descendant or the next immediate male family member that you have at that time. So, while Viserys the First does not have a son, he does very much have a younger brother who is pretty much in the prime of his life. And
typical prince behavior.
Very much. He grew up
wealthy.
Well-to-do and wealthy, and
do what he wants.
No one told him no, and he's developed a few rougher edges because of it, as royal families are often to do. And the only issue with that is his younger brother Daemon is not necessarily the most kingly of persons we've seen so far.
Yeah, it seems, well, from what they say, he seems self-serving.
Self-serving and violent.
And extremely violent.
Unnecessarily violent.
When I watched it on the second go round, I'm not a gruesome movie type person. So when I watched it on the second go round, I kind of like had to close my eyes during the scenes where the gold cloaks.
Yeah, the gold cloaks cleansing of
did what they did. Which I was with it, because of I was with punishment.
It was effective.
It was.
It's effective.
It was.
Albeit not morally based, but it was effective.
It was very effective. It was gruesome, but I did appreciate so much the detail that they put into letting us know that's how the gold cloaks got started.
Yes, I appreciated
Daemon
that.
Targaryen.
Yes,
I would have never, I didn't expect that.
It was something that I believe they either say one time in the original Game of Thrones series or they mention in the books. But a lot of the traditions and a lot of the systems in place of the current Westeros in Game of Thrones are in place because the Targaryens built it there. And it's something that they don't necessarily speak on because at that point in history, we have new names in charge and they're not trying to overly praise the family that put together the city, even though the family put together the city. Yeah. So because of that, it's nice. We get to see, a lot of the framework for what sets up the world we're familiar with from the original series.
I really appreciated that detail. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So,
but that also speaks to his character, right? Like, and that's what makes him such a complex character, is that he came up with they assigned him to the City Watch, but still he made that program to protect everybody. But then it also speaks to that other that other side of his character, that darker side.
Yeah. There's definitely a positivity in being, because it speaks to forward thinking, because that's like having an idea like we need a police force. Mm-hmm. We need a designated police force for this very large city that we got
at that time.
At that time. Because the crime was high at the time. They do speak to that
a lot.
At that point in King's Landing, it was not.
People were scared to come there.
Yeah, it was not the most. It wasn't the pomp and pasteurized city from the original Game of Thrones series. It's very much at that point in time, a city of wealth, and you want to go there. There's job opportunities. It would be like if the entire country had one mass, just capital city. And you want to be there. At this point in time, King's Landing was a rougher area. Understandably so, I suppose, because they hadn't really migrated all of the newer families of people in there.
And again, this is medieval times, so a lot of culture and policies and procedures that we know now, or even they knew 172 years later, that wasn't the same as like what it was then. They had to develop to get there, so that's understandable.
Absolutely. So we're trying to figure out who is going to succeed the king, and
and it's between Daemon
and Daemon. He's the initial pitch. He's the logical one that some of the members of court are comfortable with. He's young, albeit he has some personality issues. He's young. He's seems to have a strong military mind and at least have some combat, proficiency. he has the strong-willed aspect of a leader down pat. It's just the moral side that seems to be lacking. Yeah, but there are
his
people.
Character, definitely can be called into question heavily.
But there's an understanding for those who might have some support for him. The people that have a claim for him, you can see.
My man, the richest, honey, the richest, and a black man. House of Talon, which that's another family that. So I hope they're gonna address how some of these families fell off, because okay, I'm so rocking with the
Lord Corliss.
Lord Corliss was his name, House of
another member of the small council. Those are the immediate characters that we get.
So wait, he's not the Hand of the King.
No, the Hand of the King was the gentleman.
Hightower.
Yes, Hightower.
Okay,
he's the Hand of the King.
I got that a little confused sometimes. Okay.
He was a little quieter than I guess you would expect, which is a thing that I like to see as a parallel. So in the initial Game of Thrones series, we get a few different Hands of the King, and we get to see different ways the job is performed. Because at that point in time, you don't really have a responsible king. And the Hand of the King at that point is essentially a vice president whose job it is to basically
be the king. Yeah.
This Hand of the King, I believe we're going to see him be maybe a little more hands-off.
Yeah.
Because we have a more stable head in place who's probably not shirking off so much responsibility.
Yeah.
So I imagine he doesn't need to be as all over the place. I'm sure the position is still respected because it's still the second highest one in the kingdom. 100%. But I can understand him maybe not needing to be as vocal in this because...
And you see that. You see instances where Hightower spoke up and spoke his opinion, opposing or not, and because he clearly don't like Daemon.
No, understandably so. Daemon is my guy, but understandably so. Daemon is not the person we need to have running the kingdom yet. Maybe he'll flush out and we'll see some things. Because he even went after
Daemon, not Daemon, but Hightower's son and attorney. And I was
when I saw that, I'm like, that's some Joffrey shit.
Give him the favor.
I'm like, that's some Joffrey shit. That's some Joffrey shit, and that's some Littlefinger petty shit. I'm seeing some sprinkles.
That's a fight, yeah. Like
I would surely
meet me outside.
Can I ask your daughter for her hand real quick for this tournament? What?
A mess.
While I go put your hot son in the hospital real quick.
Knock him clean off his horse.
Yeah. So Daemon is not quite the guy we want driving the bus. Yeah.
But you see the king take in and acknowledge that Daemon has his flaws, even though he stand by his brother loyalty, which Targaryens are clearly about.
Extremely family loyal, and I'm fine with that. I'm appreciative of the fact that, at least not to a fault yet, he's not willing to let Daemon overly extend his hand because he's aware, I believe, of his rougher edges, but he also understands that his family and this is also a direct Targaryen bloodline. Like, he has to be involved within the court. Mm-hmm. He has to hold the position.
Because that's what the Targaryens are all about.
He can't just, he's not the Tyrion type to just drink and frolic across the land. That doesn't seem his type.
Well, really, the Lannister type, I guess, that would just
which is an interesting thing that I was going to bring up to you and bring up in general to the podcast. So, we've not seen the Lannisters yet. The Lannisters are in this. I will tell you, the Lannisters are in this.
Okay, I looked
into the cast listing and I found one of the guys who's going to be playing a Lannister in this. So the Lannisters are one of those old families like the Baratheons and the Starks and the Targaryens.
Well, I take it they rose into prominence later, and it was just like
they weren't the main family at that point in time. Like the Highgards eventually become the second richest family. They come into prominence later. They're still at this point on the outside looking in. Like, if you look at the scene towards the maybe midway point or tail end of the episode, they're having a point where they're talking to Targaryens to all the families of court, and the Starks and the Baratheons have to come in and pledge fealty.
I saw that. Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier in the pod.
Very much see the Baratheons do not looking positive about being there.
Neither did the Starks.
They very much are clear, like this is.
They wasn't.
We give our bow to.
They wasn't feeling the woman queen, the woman ruler.
I don't think that, or generally just the Targaryen as a whole, because those houses as a whole have bad blood with the Targaryens, and they've killed some descendants of some Starks at some points in history as well. So
that's
as a whole,
true, but from what I take it, I'm not sure because I didn't read the books.
Oh no, then I haven't got anything yet either.
So I wouldn't know, but it kind of do seem like maybe from the original Game of Thrones, a lot of the deep-rooted hate issues came from the Mad King.
Yes.
Around his time. They did mention Balon, at one point terrorizing the history.
Yeah.
But the Mad King seems to do a lot of the damage that we saw
of the recent rendition.
Game of Thrones. So it's a possibility the blood is not so bad here, but they definitely look disgruntled.
They look disgruntled.
But I wasn't sure if it was because it was the woman ruler,
which is also
or
a possibility.
Because
as it stands with that, neither the Baratheon house nor the Stark house have any history of any female leaders. It wasn't a common thing at that point in time with any families, really. There may have been some exceptions here and there for special case things. But
not really.
As a whole, you weren't seeing it. So I think you probably across the board were going to see some not in supportive looks from the families that were under the idea of the second part of this. So
I do like that they could have had any families pleasing their fealty. But of course they said Starks and Baratheon.
They're old families, and I appreciated the nod to the old lineage. And I look forward that we're going to get some other houses that were in prominence at the time that fall out, and however they fall out, albeit battle.
And some more background on Lord Corlys and his family, because I noticed that he had gray hair, and the babies had gray hair. At the tournament they had showed the gray haired little girl. And that was nice.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, that made me very curious. Like, okay, clearly it's a hereditary thing.
Yes, I took it as that very much so.
And even how they rose to be in the richest.
My biggest interest at this point is wondering how that empire came to be and what they did to become the most prominent family. And what exactly set that up? Is this a trade market type of thing, and you guys just run all of the trades for the community? Is it something to do with them having arms dealings, and maybe they have some type of army ties, and that's how they're the quickest, the most profitable mercenary family? It could be something with that. Maybe they're like the High Garden family, where they got rich because they got all the prominent goods, and their land is just really fruitful and profitable, and they just have good trade. And they send out the best resources and produce and everything to everybody. It can be a lot of things. So I'm interested to see what it is and how they. Maybe it's the Littlefinger out. He runs all the brothels in the city.
Or something.
It could go a lot of ways.
Because I want to know who told Hightower about what Daemon said.
Yeah.
In the brothel.
Someone had to be there listening, which is not out of form for Game of Thrones, for people in power to have informants and snitches and people in the brothels and the churches just listening in case somebody's throwing shade on your name.
Know what? That definitely gives me what was the Varys. Lord Varys, Lord Varys. Little birds
scattered about. I would not be surprised to see that in some fashion, which is fine. That's the form of Game of Thrones. That's the politicking type of thing that goes on at this point. It's just you have eyes and ears everywhere, so you can. Information is power at this point in the world, at this point in time.
It is.
You have to have your ears to the ground at all times. But I guess the second plot of, what set up the conflict for the series is the other person who's in current candidacy for Viserys' throne. We have the young princess.
Rhaenyra.
Was it Rhaenyra? It probably is. Again, we'll have the names by episode 2, I promise.
It was Rhaenyra. I remember hers. Hers was Rhaenyra.
Yes, it is.
Rhaenyra, yeah.
Princess Rhaenyra.
The more they say it, the more I like it. It kind of give me like my homegirl down the street vibes. This name is kind of, it's a little ethnic.
It's a little ethnic on
Rhaenyra.
the end, but it's like they wanted so bad. Like, all right, we got to keep RH for the family. What else we do at the end is up to y'all.
Yeah.
Renexes? Nah, we're gonna go a little harder than that. What do you?
I think they was trying to appeal to all the audiences. Maybe that's me being vain, or me hoping that they was gonna diversify and more than just having one black character.
If it even makes you ask the question, it's good writing. So it's a good name.
I loved it, Rhaenyra. It's a pretty name. No, the more I say it, the more I'm like, that's actually a really pretty name. It rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
But she's definitely giving. She's gonna make her name in history one way or another. She come off more as like a mercenary, like you say. Like
she gave me Arya vibes.
Definitely.
Very much, not quite as tomboyish as Arya.
No.
She gave me a split of Arya and a little Sansa. She had some more girly tendencies, a little more femininity about her in the sense that she seemed to appreciate the woman of court aspect. She didn't have a problem with dresses or
Sansa's
playing.
Femininity.
Yeah, she very much was fine with playing the role and doting upon the court.
Getting
she
her hair
understood.
done.
Yeah, everything seemed to fit,
stuff.
but at the same time, she had a little bit of grit about her, the dragon riding and the confidence and the leadership quality in
the
her.
Desire to be more than just a pretty face.
Yeah,
just
and to be a little free. She didn't seem to exactly want to fall in line with things, because she says at one point to her friend, the Hightower's daughter, Allison. Mm-hmm. We'll have it. I promise. Allison.
We got to look. We helping each other out with this. Yeah, Allison.
All the way. Allison. The hand of the king's daughter is her best friend and her confidant. She has some scenes where they have a lot of scenes together. I like their relationship.
I do. And you know what? Allison seems like she's going to be a very complex character, because she has a odd position. Yes. Being the hand of the daughter. She's the daughter of the hand of the king.
Yes.
And that's why she's so close with Rhaenyra. But at the same time, being the daughter of the hand of the king means that he can send you on little missions for him, the hand I'm speaking of, yes, which is her father, can send her on little missions for him to keep the kingdom, for the sake of the kingdom. But that might put her in a compromising position.
I assumed it was going to in this episode with her first
I
assignment.
did. I was scared. I'm like, no, I know they're not going to let them.
I forgot I was watching Game of Thrones for a second. That's what it was. There was about 6 scenes of happy Yuletide adolescent fun where the world was just not as graphic as it usually is in this show. And because of that, I got besides myself and I forgot what I was watching. And Game of Thrones can just scene cut you sometimes and take you to a very graphic moment in the midst of a normal scene.
And then cut you right back out.
And
so you don't even know.
You don't get time to process it. You're just
what's going to happen or what ended up happening, because they never really. I'm going to assume it was no foul play, but I don't know what to assume. Game of Thrones. I don't know what to assume.
The King Viserys struck me as a very nice and honorable man. That's what I'm going to say. He struck me as virtuous.
But he's still a Targaryen.
And he's still a man. So, because of that, we're going to assume that anything can happen.
Yeah.
But to add more context to that, there's a point where Lord Hightower, the hand of the king, he's basically, I believe it's post one of the council meetings, and he's speaking with his daughter. And basically, they're talking about... he's basically speaking about the day and how the king is dressed.
About what happened. I think this was after the funeral, too.
Yes. Oh, so I suppose we probably should backtrack to that funeral. Yeah. Because that's another...
The Lord. Funeral, yeah.
That gave me Twilight Breaking Dawn vibes.
I don't know. That
Edward and having to take out Bella's.
Oh, yeah.
That gave me a flashback to that.
Yeah.
So let's jump back.
But they were vampires. But it still hurt.
It still hurt. It was very much
oh, like, no. That gave me some damn, it's a very rough, but real reminder of the pains that went with. So we kind of danced around it. But basically what happened was.
Let's go back a little bit further.
Okay.
First and foremost, King Viserys has a wife. A very nice wife, a dutiful wife who has done her
10
best.
Miscarriages and stillbirths, and
she has tried her best to give this man an heir.
A son.
The best you can ask any woman to do.
Yes.
And it just, her body has not been able to withstand it. So at this point, she is on her last try. She's currently with child.
Yep.
And the maesters, the doctors of that era, are unable to tell the sex of the child at that point in time in history.
Of course.
Obviously. But the king, being optimistic and hoping by hope that he can have an heir of his own instead of having to supplant the throne onto his younger brother, who we've already discussed.
Has a moral character, questionable situation.
Might not quite do the job justice.
Yeah.
He's hoping there's a better option on the table. So the time comes near around for his wife to give birth. And unfortunately, some complications arise. And because of that, she may not necessarily be able to go through with the pregnancy of natural means. And
she goes into labor, basically, is what I take it. She goes, it's actually what happens. She goes into labor, and the baby is breached.
Yes.
Meaning that the feet are down instead of the head being down, so there's no way they can get the baby out safely.
Correct.
And so the maesters come to, was the maesters, right?
Yes.
Yes. Or was it scepters? I don't know.
Both.
They confused me. It was both. Okay.
Doctors and nurses.
Oh, that's what that. Oh, okay. Game of Thrones, you guys. Doctors and nurses. Maesters and scepters told him that basically you can save one, both, or one. One. Wait.
One and the other.
One and the other, actually.
Your wife can get up off of this bed, or we can bring you your baby.
Your
so
baby.
You do not get to have.
Actually, I think it was more so. The wife is gonna die either way. So, do you want to save the baby, or do you want to lose them both? It's the way that I think they presented it to. Either
he
way
had
it goes,
a choice to make. It was one or the other. Somebody get one, and the king choosing, a selfish decision, albeit, but in a position of a man that's falling out all emotion and thinking of legacy in the kingdom and the future being in the best hands of the people, and
and he wants this heir so bad.
He wants a son.
He wants his son so bad. He's really decided this is going to be a boy.
This is going to be a boy, and he's going to get his boy. So in that moment of
they cut her from the rooter to the tooth, from the east to the west.
This is the most
graphic. I have to close my
medieval C-section you have ever seen. I don't even know if you call it a C-section because it didn't even look procedure like they followed it for that.
They didn't have it's medieval times.
All right, so at that point, I don't even know.
They probably hadn't even been doing them a lot.
No, they decided basically they were going to open her up and take the baby out.
I think it was one of the most gruesome Game of Thrones series.
I will easily say this is more graphic than any rape I saw in Game of Thrones. Easily. Just for my personal, for the rapes they had and the graphic things they had.
Because they didn't really like.
Yeah. There was some graphic death scenes as well in Game of Thrones. This contextually was, you didn't get warmed up to this.
I didn't like that they put it up in the mix of the battle scene, the tournament scenes. Like,
I didn't like how,
because I wanted to close my eyes and I couldn't because I wanted to see what was going on with them, but I could have to see what's going on with this.
Yes, and the problem is the scene pans for a minute. This is not from a director sense or from a director decision sense. I can understand committing to a shot, and they commit to the shot. Like the way they set this up, you get a full it's very much a cold open because after the king decides he's going to do this, the scepters and the septums and all the maesters and all every S&M they got in this room basically walks over to the queen
and hold her down
forcibly, and they come in with a scalpel.
And he wasn't even 100 with her about it. Like he slowly.
It's not even a matter of 100. He says nothing.
Yeah, but
there's no prepare.
He didn't prepare her.
He doesn't tell her anything, but I think a quick "I'm sorry." I don't even know if he says "I'm sorry." I'll have to rewatch the scene again to look. But I don't even know if he said
I don't think he said "I'm sorry." He was saying something along the lines of, this is something I got to do.
For the world, good of the realm.
He kissed her forehead,
He kissed her forehead and walked away, and basically went and stood in the other corner of the room and ignored. But we don't get that luxury because as I stated, this scene is very much. It's right in your face. So after they pan off of that, we're right down at her stomach, and they just go for it.
And then actually, I think they cut her a couple times.
They did
because I kept closing my eyes and opening them,
and they're still
cutting. So I'm like, okay.
It showed very much that they did not have a proficient. Or
they didn't give a damn about. They didn't have a practice way to do this. I'll give them that. But they didn't care about the amount of pain she was in. Or anything. They said
they heard an order from the king and said, "Bring me my child." That was all they were told, and anything other than that, they're not told to take care of her. They don't drug her. There's nothing.
They no milk of the puppy.
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 Because we gotta save the baby.
Right.
And it's like, wow, like women.
But I mean, at that point, with all the respect, as quick as that happens with no preparation or anesthesia, I feel like you could have gave her that milk of the poppy. Giving her about a quick 60 seconds to process that and then open up. And I feel like that child would have still been about the same. Now, I'm not a doctor, so obviously my ignorance of that can be showing.
Well, the child died one way or
that's the next part. The child ended up dying.
So, I jumped there.
Balon Targaryen dies. He gets to live to have a name and dies, which is the other unfortunate part about it. So the king gets nothing, but the grief and trauma.
That was the saddest part for me.
Yes.
I actually cried on the second watch. I'm like, wow, like that's so sad.
It gave me a parallel to Daenerys' decision when her baby is about to die, and she chooses to sell the soul to bring Drago back, and the baby dies.
It don't work.
And Drago's brain dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, this very much
many parallels.
Your decision. What did it cost you? Everything.
But you know, they say history repeats itself.
And I appreciate that. As soon as I was watching the scene, I'm like, damn, Dad.
Wow.
Decisions getting from your forebears. Sacrificing everything and getting nothing. Didn't even know it.
No.
This should be written in the history book of your family somewhere. Don't do it.
But that's a lot to take in. And how old is Rhaenyra here? I think they say like 13.
13, I believe.
13. Okay, yeah. So that's
which
a lot.
Is at that point in time, marrying age, and you know, Sansa was 13 in the Game of Thrones, the original series, when she got married off. That's around the age at that era where you start looking for a husband.
That's true.
Around 16, 17, you'd all be old.
Well, yeah.
We would have our descendants would probably be getting ready to get some stuff rolling at this point. Like
I know. Oh God, we would be almost grandparents at our age.
We'd be old in that era. So yes, and at their prime of 13, Rhaenyra is getting looked at to be one of the possible candidacy for the future rulers. But to preset that for the scene we were discussing about Hightower and his daughter.
Yes.
So after the king makes this tumultuous decision,
yes, loses his wife, loses his baby, his daughter, while they having a tournament that's supposed to be celebrating.
Yes.
Which it then quickly turns to a funeral. Right. And then the scene that we were talking about, which is when Alicent comes in and talks to her dad, the hand of the king. Mm-hmm. It's right after all of this that we just.
So Alicent comes in, you know, she's doing what a daughter at that era would do. She's telling her dad about
trying
her dad.
To find out the tea.
Yeah, because your dad, your dad's the vice president, so you come in the probe, get some information, tell him about what's going on.
Today, Dad?
Yeah, this is what me and my friend did today. We hung out, we went to the mall, whatever. Just little small talk to get him to talk. And in the midst of that, he does indeed get to talking, but she gets in a position she probably didn't plan for when she came in the room looking for tea. So he basically tells her, given some of the tea, that the king, he's dealing with a lot at the moment. He's sad and he's stressed and he's breathing and he could
a lot of decisions need to be made.
Yeah, a lot, and this is the man that's running the country. So as the hand of the king, operating under that mentality with less morality for your family, your job is to make sure he remains as stable and clear-headed as possible. So because that's your motivation, he asks his daughter to go give the king some company because the king's probably lonely, which I guess he would be. Yeah.
Well, when he first said give the king some company, I'm thinking it's almost like when your mama tell you or your daddy tell you, go check on your uncle, go check on your sister, your brother, something, they could use some funny childlike spirit, right? It wasn't until he told her to put on one of her mother's dresses that I was like, okay, this is moving in a different direction.
Once again, we're in a nice scene with a father and daughter talking, and we look up and we don't get asked to do some other stuff.
Yeah.
At that point in time,
mind you, I think it's good to note here that Damon, in a heated argument with him, mentioned that the mother had just died recently. So I guess that's why he told her to go get one of her dresses or whatever to make herself look older. But basically, this was another key. When he was, Alicent was like, when he asked her to do it, she was like, you want me to go talk to him in his chambers? And she sounded like, nigga, you want me to do what?
What?
Wait, you want me to go to his bedroom?
She was me in that scene. Well, honestly, she was me in that scene the moment he said the king is lonely. Because I'm like, why does she need to know this? Right. What does the 13-year-old daughter have to offer as response to feed? Even if you just bouncing ideas off your head to talk to somebody. What is she going to say to this? Oh, well, maybe the king needs a friend. You know what he probably does? Go put your mom's dress on. I'm like, he says.
That's exactly how it went. Like,
he says basically, yeah, the king could use a friend, and I think he has a friend in you. And so he sends his daughter to go.
Once again, the women bearing the weight. But to that point, though, because we don't know much about this Hightower, and we do know that the Hightower family is not around. House is not around by the time Game of Thrones, as we know it, came on.
Current day
so
Game
with
of
that
Thrones,
being said, and by his wife dying, and it seems like he only has his daughter.
It's
Was that a ploy?
He has a son though.
Oh, he does.
But yeah, remember?
Damon,
right.
The son.
But he very much might die. We don't know.
He's a knight.
He's already on Damon's shit list, and when Damon's the type of guy, if you end up on his shit list, you might just wind up dead. I wouldn't be surprised. So we'll see what happens.
It seems like everybody on Damon's shit.
And it's very part of the reason why we don't want Damon to be king, because that is exactly
very few. Ask me who's not on his list, and that list is much shorter.
Maybe his wife, Lady Reyes. I guess Lady Reyes is not on his shit list. And
I don't know. She might be on his shit list.
He doesn't go check on her much.
Yeah, they're married.
She's alive. She's not dead. Name is.
I mean, wow.
For what that's worth.
I'm at a loss.
We'll see. I ain't physically seen Lady Reyes yet, so we need to get physical confirmation.
I hope Lady Reyes is black. Doubt it.
That would be great. We don't know. It
might be a pale hair because I seem like a little
bit
all in Targaryen.
Maybe she's Dornish. Because one of the things that I've noticed that I haven't seen too much of yet within this series, I haven't seen or heard too much of too many Targaryens being married to any of the outside families.
Yeah.
So
everybody's hearing pale.
Yeah, so it's
even the wives.
But so maybe that's because there's still a surplus of Targaryens, so there's not.
Well, they were known for incest and inbreeding.
Right. So I was just wondering, like, are we going to see any mixed marriage? Because that happens at some point in the later parts of history. Marrying a Targaryen becomes a popular thing at some point.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if that's a fad that later comes into fashion when there's less of them around, and there's like, I gotta snatch me up a Targaryen, or maybe it's a thing now. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
For what we've seen, there haven't been.
It seems like a lot of what's going on in this series, House of the Dragon, is setting up for a lot of things that were into play,
which is very much
in Game of Thrones. So maybe this is the beginning of that.
Yes.
Because they also show Princess Rhaenyra taking interest in a Dornish knight.
Yes.
At the tournament. So, and we do know that that was the Lancasters that married the daughters off to the Martell people. Mm-hmm. But they mentioned the Martells too.
Yeah, the Martells were name dropped in this. We get a couple nice name drops. It made me feel good because I'd like to see some of the ancient descendant players of some of the characters that we got accustomed to, just to see if there's similarities.
It adds a level of familiarity.
Yeah, and it just helps soften the introduction to the story. Like, oh, I remember that. I know that.
Yeah, they threw the kitchen sink in this episode in a good way though, because sometimes you could throw the kitchen sink like that one movie we saw. That we didn't like. Was that the Thor movie?
Oh, so we started on Thor: Love and Thunder. Y'all are not getting the episode.
We were, but
then not.
But they could have threw the kitchen sink in there and been a disaster like that. But they threw the kitchen sink in a good.
It was a nice, neat way. I got a lot of open paths. I'm looking forward to seeing. I akined it to the pilot because I rewatched the original Game of Thrones before we watched this, just to just refresh my memory of some things, and just get my head back into space to watch the show and what the show is akin to. And it did a much better job, I feel, and this might just be the benefit they have of modern television and up-to-date writing. It's a lot better pilot than the original Game of Thrones pilot.
Oh, for sure.
The original Game of Thrones pilot, and obviously that's due to not having the money, the resources, and the buzz that the show had.
It was a first of its time.
Yeah, first of its time.
Also, because I'm trying to think of any other successful books series of this magnitude turned into a TV series.
It's not been.
They were usually turned into movies and it was a one-off, and that was it. But to write 6, well, I ain't gonna say 7, but I'll say 6, 5.5
successful seasons with potential for 6 stuff at the end.
Yeah.
Of an 8-season series show.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's good. It's good. It
gets the 60%, 70% on your test.
And I don't know if you watched it inside the episode. I'm sure you did.
Yes.
And they mentioned that they intentionally wanted to basically, and they didn't say it like this, but in so many words, they wanted to repay us for that horrible ass ending of Game of Thrones. They said that but the way that they worded it, and it was so funny in TV. This said media training. He said, "Well, we've been off air for so long. And it hasn't been. It's only been like 2 years.
It's been 2.5 years, going on 3.
It ain't that long. It's been off air since 2 years before that because of that damn weak ass last season. But we're gonna get off that because they definitely made up for it. I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come. Even though like I say, they have some dark stuff going on, like sending his daughter into the king's chambers.
Right. So doubling back to that, one of the things, it was an interesting, not choice, it was an interesting dynamic in the plot in the sense that you don't know everybody yet. And because of that, the small impressions that you get of the characters can kind of lull you into a false sense of security where you can convince yourself, oh, okay, well, he seems polite. That's going to be the nice guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, he seems charming. That's going to be the nice dude. Oh, okay, she seems trustworthy. That's going to be the nice lady. But we forget that this is the initial series and the initial episode.
Yes.
And because of that, when that decision came, part of me was taken aback by it, but part of me snaps back into the reality of the show like, okay, I don't know this dude yet. Yeah. I really shouldn't assume this is out of his character. Right. I don't really know. It's just mad surprising that this seems like it's the first time this has happened in this way. Because she seems very much like go to his chamber. So I don't know if necessarily...
It didn't seem odd to her that her dad was making a request of her.
Yes.
It seems to me like they make a lot of decisions together, which is what I was kind of speaking to.
And I like that.
Said that. Of course.
I like the dynamic.
They're trying to preserve their family.
Because, and it adds maturity to the character that she's also got stuff to do. She's not just the princess's friend and the daughter of somebody. She's involved in the interminglings of the court. Like she's
may have her own motives the princess don't know about.
Or at least she's learning how to maneuver. And one of the things that I've learned and appreciated about Game of Thrones was it's good for characters to gain experience learning how to move around people. It's better than just being the pretty girl with the famous name and a face to you. She's learning how to interact and make moves with things. So later on, if she's tactical, like she said, or if she needs to do something against the agenda of the princess, she's equipped to. She's not just her friend.
Again, we don't know the depths of her and the princess relationship.
Which is one of the things I guess we can segue into. We don't really know. So they are friends. We'll start there.
So before we even go here, when we was discussing the Game of Thrones series, we were wondering how, because as we know, a lot of TV shows, movies, everything, cartoons, music, everything is is accepting the diversity of the LGBTQ community. So we were wondering, right, 100%, because I mean it's real life. It should be portrayed in TV. So we were wondering how it was going to be interpreted in House of Dragon, because on Game of Thrones it was a lot of wow.
They were very sexually liberated on Game of Thrones. Incest, and not even just that, bisexual.
The houses, the
open
brothel
orgies.
houses.
There's a lot. They very much were
Tyrion married a whore.
Several whores.
They have a couple marriages and all.
And Cersei was sleeping with her brother and her cousin, and
so there's a lot of sexual things going on.
The motto was very much live your best life in Game of Thrones and love who you want to love. So we were curious in the more modernized writing era where they're trying their best to represent all communities, how that would be represented in that. So to speak to that, this was, as far as I recall, I'll have to rewatch for a third to get confirmation. I believe this was the first hint at, we don't have confirmation, at a potential gay relationship. We haven't got confirmation of that yet, but there are some signs of the familiarity between the Princess Rhaenyra and Allison.
Lady Allison.
They could potentially have more of a friendliness to them than just the general friendship that you see.
Like an attraction.
Yeah.
Or like there's like some subtle playful hints.
Yeah. Which is understandable for a slew of reasons. First and foremost, if they are I'm assuming, lifelong friends that they probably have been. They've assumably been around each other for a large amount of years, so there would be a level of, not intimate sexual, but intimate familiar relationship of comfortability around the person if you've been raised around them. Not just in court, but just in your general life. And the addition of they're both in the adolescent of or about age where puberty is getting ready to happen, and
you start getting them feelings,
changes and feelings and urges
and curiosities, questions.
Yes, and because of that, we get Rhaenyra specifically is a character who, well, actually, they both show signs of having attraction to both males and females.
Yeah, 100%. Because it seems like the only attraction of females is with each other. but
yes,
they definitely
that's a good point.
Give me a vibe that they, look at the guys together like Princess Rhaenyra saw the Dornish guy.
Yeah. They very much show that akinness to girlfriends that you would, the cute boy that you see at court or the attractive one that you see at the tournament and the giggling and everything of that. But at the same time, when they're alone, they seem to show a level of comfortability, and a few comments are made that give the impression that they would also both be fine being in each other's company as well as with the boys' company to that degree.
Yeah.
We haven't fully seen that fleshed out yet, but that was just the impression I got from the few scenes that I saw. From a writing aspect, being a writer, I felt the writer was trying to say to me, these characters are open to both. We haven't gotten there yet, and we weren't going to touch on that yet. But if I see them kiss later, I'm not going to be like, what the fuck happened? I'm going to very much be like, okay.
And you got to remember, too, that by them being royalty and not really having the opportunity, they're very supervised. So they only spending time with each other. Yeah. So, I remember, I had a best friend that and we spent a lot of time together, and people insinuated that about us. And I was like, no, we never was like that, Courtney. We never was like that with each other. So it could just be that they so close that it gave us. I'm interested to see.
Always possible. These are just two young platonic friends that are young girls that are around each other and are comfortable, and that's perfectly fine. It's just it had a hint of something, so I'm just putting it on my board idea in my head to keep an eye out for it. So if the story fleshes it out later, I'm like, okay, I noticed you telling me this at the start, and if not, it's fine.
Well, I almost kind of a little bit got that vibe from Damon when he was having difficulty sleeping with that girl.
Was another thing I was going to bring up.
Oh, look, I'm in your head. I'm in your head. No, because
that was literally the next aisle. I'm like, she's already over there shopping. She's already took us up. She knows where I'm going with this. So, Damon.
I kind of got that vibe too because he was trying so hard to get the feeling, but it wasn't happening. But people were watching, and I know if people was watching me have sex, that would be a little odd for me. But I don't know. What do you? You a man, so you tell me.
I can be pretty present state of mind. I don't think it would bother me.
Okay.
I'd be focused on what's going on.
In other words. I don't understand.
But in Damon's defense, he had a lot of things on his mind.
He did.
He's worrying about the throne not being transferred over to him because a lot of people within the court do not and are very open with the fact they don't want him running things. Mm-hmm. So he's in a difficult place. And as a male, there are moments where you get a difficult thing a lot on your mind and stuff just doesn't always work out. So I might have just been one of those moments.
The question did
pose. Like with the girls, we got to put it on the board as a thing to notch later, and we'll see. If Damon show up with a boyfriend later, we'll see what happens.
And also, not even just with that, but the fact that they said he hasn't touched his wife.
Yes, hasn't been home to, as far as we're aware.
Because Damon has plenty of married men that avoid their wife. They still like to fuck.
Exactly.
That's why they wifey. Exactly. That's why they became wifey because they like that good.
It's like, and they're Targaryen, so it's not like I'm expecting him to have some pick of the litter woman at home. Like they're all very much well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure his wife is fine.
More than likely beautiful.
I'm sure she's beautiful. I'm sure
brought a lot of pride to the country.
I'm sure she has a nice familial background. I'm sure she was not just some slump that he just picked up at.
And he's a prince, so they got him the top of the line.
So whatever that's about, we're gonna see. Lady Ray, we waiting on you. I'm assuming you're bad, and I'm gonna keep. Oh my God, what if Helena Bonham Carter? We didn't know she was in this series, and she played Lady Ray. And I'll lose my heart.
And he wasn't doing her. Oh yeah, that's gonna solidify it for me.
That's what Damon's my favorite character. Because if you're not doing Helena Bonham Carter, I can't support anything about that.
I would love her in something like this.
If it was a bit role or anything, I'd be so happy.
Well, now that Johnny Depp's out of hot water, maybe that may give him an opportunity.
Don't let him slide up in this. Then the girl's gonna instantly shoot up to the top of my show. I'm like, oh my God, Johnny Depp showed up. Because the thing with Johnny Depp is that's so his niche. He gets off on showing. He could be a
pirate and say "F you" to Disney.
No, not even that. Just being a pirate. Johnny Depp would show up in some shit and not promote doing it, and you would just hear word of mouth that Johnny Depp is in this. Yeah. Like it come out later. Like he quietly show up and try to keep it low key and do his scenes and dip, and then you find out on episode 7, like, so we got a surprise character coming in. Like, hold on, wait a minute. See, they come like, wait a minute.
Man, I would love it so bad. I would love it so bad. Real bad. Yeah.
We love you.
But so far it's bringing a lot to the table.
A lot of complex factors.
And I also want to know too the closeness of Princess Rhaenyra and Daemon.
Yes.
Which is going to make for interesting. It's going to be interesting how it play out in the series with her being named.
Yes. And truthfully, I think one of the things that I appreciated with the early tidbits we get of that, and I hope we get some more before their conflict really starts to butt heads. She and the king seem to be the only characters that show some real humanity for Daemon.
Absolutely.
Like, she seems to, like, show, like, real, like, she treats him like just a person. Everybody else seems extremely fearful or weary, which I understand. Yes. I'm not going to fault them. Daemon puts that vibe out there like he might just kill somebody.
He's a terror. He's a terror to some, but to those select few.
But he seems to be very sweet to some others.
To select few.
Yeah, and even his brother, like, I feel like he appreciates the fact, because he's sitting outside at one point during one of the council meetings when they're talking about him, and they're trying to contest, like, well, Daemon doesn't need to be the leader of the City Watch. He killed a lot of people. Like, a lot of people.
He did.
There's a little aggro. We don't know if we need him to be in charge.
And he made a spectacle of it.
It was not a quiet killing at all. This was a very much a show of dominance and power, and I am here, and this is how my city is going to be run type of things.
Yeah.
Which I can respect from the violence aspect of you trying to put that vibe out there. But again, you can't really then just go smile and walk the streets of the city and expect people to be like, oh, they want to.
Yeah. But I don't think he wants that anyway. He's such a complex character. He don't seem like he's fighting for anybody's approval, acceptance, or anything. But he does. I'm not gonna say that as if to say he's not a good person.
No.
The fact of if he's a good person or not is really still in the air for me.
He's a conflicted person.
He's very conflicted.
He seems to be one of those characters that reminds me of a Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones, in that he's very at war with himself in some aspects.
Always.
He seems to be like there's good trying to break through there, but the bad is strong and it's heavy, and it's probably like a 60-40, 70-30 ratio.
But you know what? Up to that note, it seemed like it kind of reminds me of Daenerys.
Yes.
And her battle, is that like an early age Targaryen thing where they have, it's like, am I going to end up being cray-cray?
It's possible.
100%, or am I going to,
Because we spoke to the fact that most of the Targaryens we saw are level-headed. David might be the wild card in that, and that might explain the overly aggressive behavior. Maybe his hyper-violence is a character trait to the fact that he's
genetic. It was passed
down from their dad. And, him and Viserys' dad was maybe married to one of their aunts or something.
Well, that's a good point. I'm glad once again you in my head. Because
I'll dual shop.
We tag team in the supermarket. But yeah, I was just thinking, like, I wonder who's their dad, because again, Viserys and Daemon are King Jaehaerys' nephews.
Yes.
And the succession automatically went to them, which means that their dad was around but died, or went away, or what's to their dad. I hope that's going to be addressed. Who is their father and what?
I'm wondering if maybe he was older than Jaehaerys and maybe died before them and then just had the sons that were left over, or possibly was just old, and at that point in time it made more sense to pass it on to his sons than to him because he was also old. But I'm not sure, because it's like in Game of Thrones when Robert died and he was about to pass on the throne. The logical choice that the crown would demand is it went to his sons. But he had two brothers, younger than him, both of them. But they were also making claims for the throne as well. So I wonder if it was some circumstance or something similar like that, where if maybe he didn't have sons, then there would have been some type of thing with his brother's kids. Or,
I see.
Maybe something like that.
Because they never touched on
it's not fully fleshed
out.
But
they may not need to in this case. This is it. Yeah,
I'm good present where we're standing. It's just a curiosity type of thing and how we ended up here. But either way, the main point is it's either going to be Daemon or it's going to be Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Or the queen it never was, because I don't think she's off the board yet as a possible candidacy for in power in the future. She's married to the rich guy. So she has an end to the court and the council. She has probably her own influence as a Targaryen herself. Her husband, probably the most connected man within the city. So,
and he's the richest. So
and the richest. So I just feel like, and she seems to very much still want to lead and be in charge. Like every time I saw her, I got to look at her. She was doing those shady auntie looks like, this should have been mine. This all should have been mine.
And then the Baratheon knight asked for her favor.
Right.
And so, he's the one that called her the queen that never was.
And it's like, it makes me wonder if at some point there's going to be some fracturing of this family. And then there's going to be some splintering off of a Targaryen group over here that got these 3 family supporters. And maybe Rhaenyra is going to have backing by whoever her dad has. Because I feel like the king's going to die. Viserys is going to die soon.
Well, yeah, they got
the
a
wife
lot
dying
going on
threw
with
me
him.
off. His wife dying, I didn't expect this soon. So I don't know how long he's going to be alive now, but I feel like he's going to die soon.
I always kind of felt like, for whatever reason, he was going to be dying. We're not sure how soon.
Don't know.
But about how soon, I mean, like this season or even next. Is it going to be a couple seasons
it could
before
be
he
a minute,
dies?
like the time.
Because the fact of the matter is, the plot is who's going to end up being the leader. Yes. So clearly, death is amongst him.
And my whole thing is,
but to who? You know, it seemed like I was going to say, a Princess Rhaenyra is the niece. Rhaenyra, whatever the hell, the queen that never was.
Yes.
She seems to be the choice of the people. She seems to be the people's choice. Daemon is the law's choice, and Rhaenyra is the king's choice. Yeah. And so it's, very interesting. Rhaenyra may have an opportunity to prove herself.
I would assume she's going to have to.
But, even she kind of is on the fence about if she wants it.
She never, one, at that point, obviously in her position as the daughter of the king, especially with the familiar relationship she has with her uncle, I'm pretty sure she is under her own impression that he's going to be king. Your dad has no sons, and you're not married yet, and by law, it seems to be word of mouth of the kingdom that Daemon's probably going to be king. So it's of common knowledge. So I feel like she might have her own level of being okay with that. Like, obviously she accepts, but I feel like that's I had to say yes to my dad's situation.
Yeah.
Like, I know he doesn't have a better choice than me. He needs me to do this, but I would understand if she was fine with him being king as well.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, I felt that. But she did say she never saw herself being queen. At the same time, she also never saw herself in a position that her mother was in.
Yes.
So I think being a queen is a better option for her. She's still going to have to do that, but she's going to have more power in the situation. Rhaenyra never seemed like, to me, she would be okay with not being free to do whatever it is she wants to do.
If she had to play the position, she seems like she'd do her oh my God, what is her name? High Guard. Yeah, her duties. Marjorie. She seems very much in the Marjorie template of, I'm going to play the position and whatever that demands and do it because I know this is what I got to do at this point type of thing. Like Arya, if she got stuck there, would probably tooth and nail try to find a way to get out of that. And probably would succeed the throne to David if it meant she didn't have to do it just on some, let my uncle do it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be queen. So we'll see. But it's setting up for there to be a 3-way vying of people on the board so far. But this is the Game of Thrones universe. And we know that the board is obviously going to fill up with more players. More people who have an opportunity to vie for the throne. And that was going to be one of the aesthetic things I want to do a quick touch on. What did you think of the Iron Throne? The actual design? Because in the Game of Thrones version, we get the old Iron Throne with remember they do all the talk about the 1,000 swords of Aegon's conquest, and it's on like 100. Did you notice the Iron Throne that David's
had
way more swords?
Yeah.
It looked like how the Iron Throne that they described in the original would look.
Yeah.
So I was wondering.
It looked scary.
I loved it.
It looked scary.
I loved it.
And when he said, I think this is something that I got from sitting the Iron Throne, like, well, damn, I got to worry about getting my ass cut up when I sit on the throne.
It's this massive. It gave everything that
it was gas to be in Game of Thrones.
Yes, like
it was everything. It was gas.
It's the original throne with the original stacking of swords into it.
It was massive.
But the courtroom looks way bigger, and there are swords. It looks like a graveyard or scattered around the throne. Like there are swords scattered all around this thing in various sizes, up, front, and back. It's really a nice aesthetic looking scene, and you get this nice shot. The first time we see it is Damon sitting on the actual.
Yes.
And it's not the king; it's Damon.
And it was an empty room.
An empty room. Nobody's in there.
Which, when nobody was in there, it looked massive, like the room did, but it didn't look as big as it did once people filled up. Which we didn't get. We didn't get much. Oh, you know what that is?
No. But generally, that's a good point, though. It does. It looked bigger. Like the room looked different once it was.
We didn't get much of seeing the room filled in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and plus they
didn't really get that
it in
at
Game
all.
of Thrones. Like Joffrey redesigned the throne room like shortly into his reign, so we really don't. Yeah, like he does it real quick. Like, yeah, we need to make it look different. So we get different looks of it aesthetically quick. So it's not the most memorable thing, but this shot specifically for me, this did it.
Yeah,
it's this dark shot. We pan over David sitting there on the throne, and all the swords and everything's around him. He's just looking with this sadistic leader looking. I'm just like, my God, I can follow this. I kind of want you to be in charge. You know, you look crazy. Just to see what you're gonna do. You're giving me Mad King vibes, a young Mad King, and I kind of would be interested to see a series from that perspective of what would it be like to see what the early part of a crazy Targaryen ruler would be like. What would a Mad King at 30s rule look like? Are they horrible? But maybe that's the thing that breaks the camel's back to the Targaryens and sets the divide.
Well, the Mad King, that's actually exactly what happened with.
But like an earlier version, because my thing I'm assuming is there had to be other not great Targaryen rulers.
Well, yeah, I mean they spoke on it. They spoke on it on whoever was the ruler before King Jaehaerys, whatever.
King Jaehaerys the third, I think.
King Jaehaerys III. Okay, whoever the king was before that was a tyrant.
Yeah.
And that's why King Jaehaerys made it his business during his 40+ years of ruling to keep it peaceful. And Viserys wanted to do the same thing, and he wanted it to be passed along to his heir and so on and so forth to do the same thing, because it seemed like when they got a mad one, they really wreaked so much havoc that they felt like they owed it to the people to get him a rest.
And I respected that, because most families might not be aware and be like, we caused the genocide, guys, but we don't keep it. Man,
we had our dragons kill whole villages.
1 out of 15 is fine, y'all. It's fine. We're going to rebuild the kingdom. Don't even worry about it. It's fine.
Another thing, and we don't have to get too deep off into this, but I do notice that this is like one of the first series, well, this and Harry Potter, I would say, where they made the blonde hair, blue eyed the antagonist.
Yes.
Versus, the way history usually is.
They're usually the that is true.
The way that they paralleled it. Which I'm not, I'll take one way or the other, because it's been done so often.
I'm perfectly fine with going against the social norm to give different looks to things. It's fine, and it gives people perspectives that they normally don't get.
Like a colorblind casting almost. But then also to that point, I find it odd that they want to, it's an article on Good Morning America about Lord Corliss being the richest black man, even though historically he's not. But historically, black people haven't been publicized to be the richest, right? So apparently, it was some outrage about that, which I found to be odd, because we got through the whole Game of Thrones series with not one African American character. We did have the Martells.
There were a few scattered about. We saw some African American pirates. We saw some African American slaves. Missandei King Daenerys.
Missandei was a slave.
Was a slave, but she was black.
She was. She had a lead role.
Grey Worm, the leader of the army of the Unsullied, was a slave, but he was black.
Yeah.
And a singer. My boy, he's actually a singer in real life.
He's a singer.
He's a singer. Oh yeah, he has some hits. He has some hits. Let me get his name real quick.
Yeah,
quick press with this man we don't know, but I love.
Well, yeah, well, black people historically have always been given roles.
Rayleigh Rich, that is his name.
Rayleigh
Rich.
Okay. I gotta look him up.
Has a beautiful singing voice. I was so surprised.
He's a good actor.
I would say. Right? I was so surprised because the voice, I was like, he can sing? I looked it up. He actually asked me this. I was like, oh, wow. I like
know
him.
that's right.
He's, I think, I would say British and something else. I forgot what he's mixed with. But yeah, he's
probably from the islands or something. It's a lot of Caribbean people in the
maybe
UK.
But to say that, to say we had some scattered representation of African Americans in Game of Thrones,
but nothing like what Lord Corliss is
nothing
giving.
Close. Not even
and
close.
It's only one black. It's so far.
So far,
it's only one black house and black family, black characters so far. And so why the outrage?
I think that ultimately people have to remind themselves.
There was no outrage with the Dornish.
No outrage with the Dornish.
And the Dornish were fairly rich.
Very rich.
And freaky.
They were rich. They were freaky. They were the best wine traders.
They were good fighters. Yeah.
They were a well-respected house. They were members of the court. They were married to one of the queen's daughters. They were very much in the mix, and it was fine. And when it comes to the black families turning back, I think one of their powers was
but a strengths rather, is the fact that they were good mercenaries.
Yes,
because didn't they get with Cersei to get the elephants and whatnot?
They had a lot of positive characteristics about their family, their history, and everything about them. And I'm sure Lord Corliss' family will as well. I'm confident.
I'm so happy about.
I hope he has a dragon.
About that.
I hope he has a dragon.
Oh well, his wife is a Targaryen, so
I hope
it's possible.
Somebody close. I'm assuming.
They said it's 10 dragons. I do remember them mentioning that several times.
We've seen two.
It's a Targaryen. Yep.
We've seen Daemon's.
I
had the names.
I
had the names of the dragons.
I'm gonna
have them all. I'm gonna have them all by the time we get there.
Something with a
Daemon's dragon is, I want to say, Syraxes or Syrax.
Syraxes. Because Rhaenyra said something about he was the wielder of Dark Sister.
Raylaxes.
And the
Raylaxes.
No, it's something with a C. And the rider of whatever his dragon name is.
It was definitely a C.
Because I had to rewind it because I didn't know what the hell she was talking
about. The dragons look great. Let's just say that. And the dragons didn't look bad in the original Game of Thrones. But the difference was in the original Game of Thrones, and it was because at the time they only were doing 3 dragons, and that's fine because the dragons are extinct just about at that time. The dragons all looked exactly the same, which, considering that they came presumably from the same series of a nest of eggs, thinking back, I'm okay with that.
And the same mom.
Yeah, because at this point in the Targaryen hierarchy in Prime, dragons are a lot more prominent. They're all much more alive and better health. Yeah. And because of that, we get a lot of different dragons. We've seen 2 so far. We're getting 10 in the series altogether.
Rhaenyra rode one, and
maybe that was Rhaenyra's dragon. Maybe that's
what with the R, I think. Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken,
Syrax.
Yeah.
Syrax and Renaxes.
Yeah, so Renaxes is Rhaenyra's go figure, right?
Right.
And then Syrax is Daemon's.
Syrax is this really long neck red. I expected this dragon to be red too, because Daemon, I don't want to assume Daemon's evil, but I'm fine with him having the red dragon. Daemon's probably evil. That's
I don't know. It seems like he's battling.
He's battling. He got the red dragon. He's got the red whip like he's evil. So
I also appreciate the fact that even though they talk a lot about the dragons in Game of Thrones, they didn't really give any characteristics about the dragons.
Yes.
So when they was like, you smell of dragon, they kept making mention like, when you ride the dragon, you have a smell.
Which would make
almost
sense.
like when you go outside and play all day, you
come back and ride a horse, and you smell a horse.
And you smell a horse.
It's a
I didn't know that
animal.
Dragons had a smell.
Well, you think about it though, it's something that you think of, because honestly I wouldn't, but it's like, makes sense. It's a large animal that you're in close proximity with for an extended period of time. Sure. What dragon smells like is the question I don't know. I know what horse stuff smells like, so if it's akin to that, I'm assuming it's
a big ass animal that flies through the sky.
Musky type of mucky smell.
Because even after she bathed, her mom still smelled the dragon on her. Yeah, so we gotta be
maybe some slimy as Daenerys never mentioned smelling the dragon.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I appreciate about the fact that they gave more details and descriptions about the dragons that they never gave.
It's personality for the animals, and I like that.
You can tell they're taking their time with this writing. Yes. They're being very detailed. It's up to you to catch it or not, but they're being they're
leaving it out for
descriptive
and trying to give as much world building as possible in context, which is good. I'm hoping they take their time. I'm hoping they
They gonna take their time. They said in the inside episode, like,
they say that, but I appreciate that too, and I'm hoping they stick to their word. But Hollywood done burned me on a lot of things before, so we gonna wait and see. All it takes is for Disney to come call the wrong check. Next thing you know.
Yeah, well, let's hope they learn the first.
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're gonna do right by
George R.R. Martin, the writer of the
he's
book
very
series,
much involved.
He's very much involved. That gives me great hope.
Yes.
They need to keep his little palms greased.
He's not finishing books at the moment, so I would be more than happy.
Oh, they kept his palms greased. He said,
if he's focusing just on books for this time, I'm perfect. TV at this time, I'm good with that.
I would think too that he will probably feel like, let me step in and save my legacy as well, because he can write these books as long as. But you know, sometimes people get a hold to the show before they do the books.
Not even just the books thing, just with the world that we live in, and though I love it myself, acknowledging that print is a dying medium. People don't read as much, and the reality is you can reach a lot more people now with a TV show than a book. And you can do a TV show faster than a book. It's less of an editing process. It's less scrutiny you probably putting into it for yourself, just because you got a real timetable you got to commit to for networks. So I think, as a whole, this might be a better storytelling medium for him for a little while to get more of his story out that he wants to do for the world without having to. Because he's older now. He ain't got the luxury of spending 9 years to write a book like he used to.
Yeah, right.
He might not get that next one finished with him getting up there. So TV's faster for him, easier to do. They're paying him the money he deserves to be getting paid for his work. I'm cool with getting TV shows and this being the thing that we get as Game of Thrones. If it's going to be taken care of, well, so.
Yeah, because they could really do a lot of different spin-offs.
Oh yeah.
Even with this House of the Dragon, it's already some characters. I'm like, okay, I'm invested. I want to see, if they gave my man, Lord Corliss, if they gave his family their own spin-off, series or their history or whatever. And I love the Game of Thrones, and it's given everything that I wish Harry Potter could have gave, in the sense that more content for a longer period of time. That's all. Other than that, Harry Potter is the mother and the father.
It's the GOAT.
Yeah. It's the parents.
They just would have been able to benefit if they had, at like this time, had a Netflix they had access to put out an extended series.
Absolutely.
Really take their time, because they had such a big world. They couldn't do everything. And if you read the books, they just had so much in there. Like, you could have had a whole plot of the series just on a semester of the regular ongoing, so the kids not even evolved to the Voldemort stuff and what they had going on. Just enough. But I'm still heartbroken to this day. About Hermione not getting her damn arc in Order of the Phoenix, about her petition to save the rights of the house elves.
That was in 5?
It was in 5. It was a 4 and 5. It went on for a minute. It's an ongoing campaign. She was fighting for it. She had an ongoing campaign fighting for the rights of the freedom of house elves and how they were segregated people, even though they were directly responsible for assisting in her life being easier.
Yeah,
they
made everybody's life.
Meals, they cleaned everything in the castle, and she was somebody who said they need to be free. They weren't even getting treated poorly. Dumbledore did well, but she still was like, "No, we can do better than this. We can do better."
And they was trying to start for house elves all around, which period. But it's funny you mentioned that, because I was literally just thinking about this. I was watching Chamber of Secrets yesterday, which I haven't seen in a while. I've been watching it the past couple of days. And Dolby, I forgot he was in 2. I don't know why I thought he was in 1.
Yeah.
But he was in 2, and I'm like, damn, he was fucking Harry Potter up that year.
He was trying his best to keep him home. He was trying his best to keep him home. He was working for the Malfoys, and he knew shit was coming. And he was trying his best to hey, bro. He couldn't directly say, you can't go to school because of this, because he was bound to their family. But he was trying his damnedest to get him to go home. He tried to hurt him. He tried to make him miss the train. He was just like, bro, please, Harry, look, don't come to school today. Harry.
The bludgeon. He sent them to the hospital and all. And Gilderoy. I don't know why I thought Gilderoy was in the first, but of course he was in the second.
It's because so much goes on. It's easy to forget.
Yeah, it was so much with
that. I get mad to this day thinking back that Dumbledore gave that man a position. I don't give a damn if he was famous or not. That was one of the most wasted Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers they ever had.
Literally.
He attributed nothing to their growth whatsoever, but reopening that Doom and Cub for them. And that was 1 year, and it closes right back up after that.
Yes.
I was like, Gilderoy, what did you do? What did you do to finesse Dumbledore? I know he knew you didn't know shit. You can't finesse
the ministry probably made Dumbledore do that
like,
one.
look, he's got a
but
good
Snape
name,
told him immediately.
I'll take over for this. The real teacher here.
Yeah, that was good.
God bless her.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if J.K. Rowling got inspired and came out, dusted something off. I mean, a prequel to Harry Potter wouldn't be bad. Like, well, we actually, I guess, have that with Fantastic Beasts, even though it's a lot going on with that because of the actors.
That one is almost not even necessarily a prequel. It's just events before. Because obviously a prequel, by definition, is, a story event that takes place before your main story. But I almost consider it a separate story because it's not directly related to the events of necessarily Harry Potter. Like it involves things, but it's
Dark Lord.
It's generations enough removed where we could still do. I could take a series about Snape and Harry's dad and all of them being Hogwarts as kids.
Yeah.
Story, not be fine with that.
And Lupin and his,
and his underlying gay relationship or whatever.
Wait, what?
So one of the things
I was talking about him being a werewolf, but
that was a metaphor for that.
Oh! wait.
So it's a fun tidbit of fact. So interesting thing. So the actor that played Lupin, he's done some interviews and around the time since when he was doing the reading for the character, he was under the impression that Lupin was gay when he did the reading for the character. And one of the things that was written as a background character is that Lupin was homosexual. It's something that was inferred by his character as an addition. So it was ironic that before they fully got a chance to film, he did some reading afterwards. He's like, yeah, I honestly thought the character was going to be homosexual at the time. And some of his tendencies, and he has a little bit of some, not quite flamboyantness to him, but a little bit of some softness and a little bit of androgynous pedigree to him that felt like it could have been in there. It was quiet, but it was background. So after I heard him say that, and I was rewatching it since, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that. So.
Well, he did get with Homegirl, who was a shapeshifter. So.
And the other part of that, in the Harry Potter universe, there was a bit of some speaking. But there.
I don't know. I didn't.
This is one of those. This is only because I be too into Harry Potter.
You be deep in them blogs.
I'm deep in the blogs.
I'm like, wait.
It's because I feed so much for the content. There's not any more of it, so I gotta go look into everything they ever said about it.
Well, one series they can leave dead is the Twilight.
That's one that honestly,
I'm okay with not seeing.
I'm surprised for the money and success that had that we didn't see a sequel.
I don't feel like it's old enough. Well, at this point,
now
maybe
because we're getting close to the Hunger Games that I sent you for that thing.
Oh yeah,
and Viola's going to be in that. I can't wait for that and all the good things that's going to have to do. So I ordered the books. They're coming, I think, Saturday. The latest Hunger Games books that got written as the prequel series, following a young Senator Snow in his 20s. I'm so interested to see what in the world that's going to be about. And apparently he's mentoring a candidate from, I think it's a girl actually, a candidate from
I'm excited.
A candidate from District 12.
And it's gotta be coming soon because Viola Davis is talking about it and giving details. So that means it's already filmed or
she's doing that, and she has another movie.
And she's living so unapologetically herself.
Yes,
and she's even saying it like, look, y'all want me to wear a wig, y'all gonna get this natural. I'm just
and I like that she's doing now roles that are supporting that. Like she has something coming on. I've seen it, Women King, the trailer.
I did.
Yes, I want to see that.
I thought it was already out. Okay.
If it's not out,
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta check out Women King. Yeah.
Y'all gonna have something coming for Women King because I saw the trailer for that.
That's gonna be
Viola's coming. This might be her. Got her Oscar. You're trying to do some work for it. So I'm ready for it. Right? I'm ready for it.
So. She's more than deserving of it, of more recognition. But I just love her energy, and she's been in the game for so long. It's only right that she's able to, be herself. She gave me Cicely Tyson vibes in the sense of endurance and like longevity in her career.
Getting her flowers later in her career, but
Well, she's trying to demand them, which as she should. We are giving them.
We're giving them.
We're
she's demanding them, but she's also unresistingly getting them. And that's what's good to see. And that's why I was glad in that and to see her doing other stuff. And then I saw Hunger Games, I'm like,
you know who also I feel like don't get the flowers that they deserve, even though they did a lot of roles, like probably been in hundreds of films at this point, is Jennifer Lewis.
Yeah.
They call her the Black Mother of Hollywood. But even outside of the mother roles she played, she's been in so many movies, TV shows, like so many. Like I'm trying to figure out. I wonder what her contract was like back then, because her residual checks should be like
now they've got to be
insane because she has so many movies that she did. That I would hope that she had residuals set up in the contract.
If you had to make an estimate as a guess what her net worth is, what would you guess?
You know,
not that this adds any pedigree to the person, and obviously the monetary value of what your net worth is doesn't mean anything. But I always get curious.
Of course, no, I'm with you, and unfortunately, I would hate to say, I feel like whatever it is ain't what she deserved. Because as for the reason I just said,
networks can also be fleeting.
She did so much. She probably didn't really get paid her just due until she started doing Blackish. She was in Blackish, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, she's in Blackish. Because I hate to say this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. But I've been getting her and Wanda Sykes confused lately, only because of the hair. Only because of the hair. But no, it's Jennifer Lewis. I feel like she didn't really get her just due until maybe the past 10 or so. I'll say maybe even 15 years. And Taraji also said that she didn't get paid what she was worth until she worked with Tyler Perry.
I'm looking at
it. It should be Kim K levels.
And it's not.
And it's not even and Morgan Freeman probably is the same way.
Well, Morgan Freeman, I think now he has enough of a mix where he's done a lot of big box office stuff. And not to say
he probably didn't get paid right to Bruce Almighty.
Honestly,
on down.
Not what I expected, but damn sure not what hers was.
Well, what was her?
Hers was $2 million net worth. Morgan Freeman's $250 million net worth.
I know that's right.
My man.
I know that's right. But he has been in bigger
top 5
stuff.
favorite actors of all time.
Yeah, 250. Yeah, he worth a cool 250 or more. Cool quarter
bill.
Yeah, that's cool as hell for somebody at his age.
At his age, that sounds right. Hers is not just at all. No, I don't appreciate that.
She needs to be like at
that is Atlantic City, a good weekend again. I do not appreciate that.
For Drake, shit, that's a night at the strip club for him.
That's what it is. Baby mama's shoe budget.
Okay.
Not it.
Look. Heavy on the one of, because I wouldn't be surprised if Drake was hiding the baby mama somewhere on the lawn.
I mean,
he hit the first one. You do it once, you would do it again.
According to him, he was hiding us from.
Oh yeah, hiding the kid from us. Go to hell. You ain't hiding nothing else from us. Oh, I'm just playing.
All right, what do you guess Viola's net worth?
Now I would say she's somewhere around what Morgan Freeman at.
Not quite his tier, but more than Jennifer.
Okay, I'll say about 10 million.
25.
25, okay.
I feel it should be more, but I'm happy it's not less.
It should be more.
Both of them should be more. But that's good. But that's good.
Well, you know what? Jennifer Lewis and probably Cicely Tyson too walked. So Viola. So Taraji. So all of them.
I ain't gonna do too many of
Carrie
these, but
Washington.
I'm just curious now. We're on Black Net Worth.
Yeah,
just curious. I don't look this up often, so.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to look while he's looking because he want me to guess.
All right, Taraji's net worth. What would you say?
I think she definitely worked like a cool at least 100 million now. No, probably not. Actually, that's what I'm thinking. Probably like I would say okay. Taraji, I would give her. She at least got to be at 50. Don't do my girl like that. Fun fact, I'm an actress, and for years, like even when I was a kid, and I got like papers at home from when I was in school, like 10 years old, I always wanted to be an actress, and Taraji P. Henson was always my favorite from baby boy days, sister days. So that's like my spirit animal.
Taraji's net worth is $27 million.
27?
I expected it to be big.
I thought it was at least 50.
I was expecting at least 50.
She did Empire. She's a
what were they paying her on?
Emmy Award winning.
She is an Emmy.
She's an Emmy Award winning. Okay, this will be our last one, but this is a random one. But now I want you to look up Jennifer Hudson.
I got you, but I'm being funny real quick and looking up Terrence Howard.
He's another one who did so many movies.
5 million.
Black niggas. Man. No, I'm just playing. I'm sorry, Terrence Howard. I love you. You didn't get your just to yourself.
You did. I love yourself. Who did you say?
Jennifer Hudson, because she's an EGOT. She just recently became an EGOT because she won something, a Tony. She won a Tony for something. And EGOT is Emmys, Grammys, Oscars, and Tony. But what was her Emmy stuff? We'll look into it. But yeah.
All right, Jennifer Hudson, what would you say?
Okay, she should definitely be at like 75 mil.
75. Survey says 30 mil.
30
that feels
mil?
low too.
Why they ain't got no money like that? See, people think acting you make all this money. Let me be the one to tell you. You don't. Clearly. Because these are.
You know what did it though? Is I was expecting it to also get a little bolster from her singing career. I thought that might have also had a little bit.
Singing career, she did Dreamgirls. She's an EGOT winner.
Well, like, what did she win the Tony? No, what was it? The Emmy?
Emmy, yeah. I know what she won a Tony for. Something she was doing on Broadway just recently in the past couple years. She just
Baba Yaga.
What's that?
TV series.
Came out in 2021.
She's executive producer.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's what took her to her EGOT status. I was gonna say. All right, well,
it might be good. I don't know that it's not. I've never.
We're gonna have to go watch it. Yeah. I'm supporting anybody who's.
We'll do some notes. If you an EGOT winner, I'm gonna do the work to find out what you did to win. It's not an easy thing to do. It's extremely. I think that Don Cheadle is also an EGOT, if I'm not mistaken.
I would love that for him, and I can see that he has a wonderful voice.
Last Google search will be Black EGOT winners because I'm curious how many of our people are in that.
I know that. Damn, I was say something about.
Give me the list. All right. Go ahead.
A good one. When you just said that, whenever I hear about a Black person winning any of those, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, I always want to see what's to them. And one that I watched that was such a good, pleasant surprise was Sounds of Summer. I think that's what it's called. By Questlove. It was so good, especially if you're a music lover. It was so good. So that's another good one worth to watch. Okay, Emmy, Grammy, EGOT.
Now, first and foremost,
it's very few Blacks.
Now, not even just Blacks. First and foremost, there are not many EGOT winners.
Period.
It is not an easy thing to do to win an Emmy, a Grammy, a Tony, and an Oscar. Yep. I didn't say that nor I don't think the proper way, but you get the gist of it.
Same difference.
Winning one of these is a miraculous feat.
It makes you as unique as the word sounds. EGOT. It makes you sound like that.
I appreciated the fact that they went out of their way to put an acronym together for this because it feels that special.
Yes.
Now, there are, as it stands in today's history, 17 EGOTs, period.
Okay. A lot of them must have just came recently because when I looked a few years ago, it was only 8.
Yes. 4 of which on the list are Black. Can you guess who they are?
I know who one, and I know who one other is also. She was the first Black one, and that would be Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes, Sister Whoopi is indeed.
She was the first Black EGOT. Yep.
Who would you guess the other?
Who's another one who laid a lot of groundwork in them films?
Whoopi is somebody who I don't know will ever fully get all the flowers that she deserves. No. Even in her lifetime, I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Because I was wondering how she ended up on The View, but then I had to do my research, and I'm like, no, Whoopi was kind of that bitch in the 90s. In the 80s, like late 80s, early 90s. She was that girl. Okay.
Unapologetically at that.
Very much so.
Comedy, television, film, Whoopi was out.
And I'm sure she caught a lot of flack about how she wanted to keep her appearance, and she stood by it, and she ain't changed it. And I love it.
Actually, it was 3. I misread the list.
It was 3? Okay. So I was going to say it's not many.
We got Whoopi. And who would you guess the third? It's a male.
I'm gonna take Kevin Hart. He's not there yet.
It's not a bad guess though. He's a mogul that's in a lot of different media, so he could very much slip into becoming an EGOT.
Yeah, because you can win a Grammy for
Kobe has a Grammy.
You could Barack Obama
and
has
an Oscar.
one. Oh, he does.
Oh, he was almost he got. Yeah, he didn't get to the Emmy. He was almost there. His Dear Basketball thing got him. I think it won him the Emmy. Or the Oscar, I'm sorry. Yeah. And the Grammy, I think it was executive produced, and that's what got it for him.
Well, I was going to say, too, you can get a Grammy for an audiobook. For if you do comedy, if you record your show live, you can get a Grammy for that. Because Eddie Murphy, don't quote me, Richard Pryor, one of them got a Grammy for their comedy series. Yeah. So you can get a Grammy for anything, literally. Grammy
categories have really expanded a lot over the years. But yes, anything vocally related.
Obama has one. Yeah.
You might be the next one to get it. I can see a man who got one. But it is a male. You want to get one more guess? Black male.
A male? Is it Morgan Freeman?
It's not. It should be.
Oh.
He needs to get on here.
Yeah,
I don't know if he'll get it.
I don't know if he got any of those.
He might not. Morgan Freeman, one of those guys that isn't really awarded, and he's just everywhere and highly respected.
I think he got Okay, you got to tell me the guy before you.
Oh no, I got you. It's right on top of my head.
But I think Morgan Freeman did get a not an Oscar, what Golden Globe. I think he got a Golden Globe, but not an Oscar. You know how the Oscars about people of art.
He has NAACP awards.
NAACP, which was our Oscars for so long because he didn't get
People's Choice. He has a couple Golden Globes.
Golden Globes.
Lifetime Achievement Awards.
You need that in everything.
Yeah. He got the greatest voice award.
I know that's. I'm coming for that Morgan Freeman.
Greatest voice.
Greatest female voice.
Now, our black male EGOT. Mr. John Legend.
Wow! John Legend? What he got an Oscar for?
He has a slew of Grammys.
Of course.
He has won.
He did something on Broadway.
A Tony for Gente. An Emmy for the Jesus Christ Superstar Live concert.
Oh!
The first black man to achieve the achievement.
Wow!
The second youngest EGOT winner of all time.
Oh wow! Okay, John Legend. I like you more and more every day. Don't tell me your wife, but you that I take you. No, I'm sorry.
You and your piano.
Right. You are not an ordinary people anymore.
No,
okay,
sir.
You are an EGOT.
Oh, sir. That is special. That is special. Well, do we have any further closing thoughts on the Game of Thrones episode? What are we expecting from this? Do we think this can get as big as Game of Thrones got? Can House of Dragon reach those heights?
I think that it won't. I know that it 100%
It'll swing
can.
for it.
Especially, well, I mean, first of all, I don't really like to compare originals and firsts to anything.
That's fair.
Because you get to know what to do right, what to do wrong, like any failure or success or whatever the case may be, any experience you learn from it, right? Yeah. So I kind of don't even want to, it's in a class of its own. But I do think it has the potential to, in numbers wise,
yes,
surpass it, because I read earlier actually that it did surpass. It's actually the most viewed series premiere on HBO of all time.
Correct.
Over 500 million viewers or something of that nature.
People wanted this.
And HBO is an institution.
Oh yeah.
It's been around 30 plus years.
It's
at
an
this point.
old head network.
It works The Sopranos, amongst Oz, The Wire. So many.
Yeah.
Wait, Oz might have been shows. But you know what I mean. It was a great
it's
shows.
That pedigree of those networks
that
already had upper echelon of shows with a history behind it.
It surpassed
Game of Thrones
all of them.
just added on to that. And House of Dragon has now broken all of those records.
All of them,
so that's very promising. It was one of those things, especially after the end of Game of Thrones had, it was going to get a big tournament. Because people needed to see if it was good or bad. And that was all. Curiosity will breed big numbers.
And that's why I like that they took so many risks with this opening episode, because you want to keep your numbers somewhere around there.
And it gave a lot of talking points, a lot of.
It was good.
A lot of graphic.
It was really good. Gritty, I'm not just saying that.
And the acting, I feel.
Even if you never watched Game of Thrones, I feel like you could jump in here and you will be cool. You really don't need the game. That's another thing I want to make clear. Yeah. You don't need to watch the Game of Thrones series to really get into House of the Dragon.
Not at all.
It's gonna be good as hell, regardless. So if you want to just jump in the House of the Dragons and then go back to Game of Thrones later, I would recommend that. I think.
Yes.
I would recommend that.
Personally, I think you should go out of your way to not watch Game of Thrones. Yeah. Watch this, and that's not an insult to Game of Thrones because regardless of personal feelings on the ending, that's an amazing series.
It'll give you a fresh perspective watching this. It'll give you a fresh perspective to not compare it maybe to the past like we can, well, not the past, technically. Yeah. The present,
I almost think it's just good not to watch to just not set yourself up for expectations.
That too.
Because watching Game of Thrones and then watching this, you can almost convince yourself you know where you're going. Yeah. And you don't. And we have to remind ourselves. Totally different series. 2 different series, 2 different writers. There's no book source material for most of this new stuff we're getting. So it's almost good to not set yourself up to be like, oh, okay, well, I know when the twists are coming.
And it'll make it even better for a second watch.
Yes.
If you watch this and then watch Game of Thrones and then you watch House of the Dragons again, it's going to be that much better. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because you'll have that whole totally different comparison. Like, after we get a full season of this, we really got an idea of what this is. Because obviously, we're still operating on the limited perspective with the hour episode that we got. But it gave us a lot. When I saw that it was 1 hour and 12, I was like, oh, y'all better come
I was waiting to look up and see 47 minutes and be irritated to be like,
I was watching it with somebody. They was like, damn, it's still on. I'm like, shh, don't worry about it.
Fine. Don't matter if it's 1 hour and 20. Sit down. We here for it.
Don't worry about it.
They here to make it's a first impression. However long it is, it's fine. They're here to make a great first impression. And I feel they did that. I'm very invested to see what's going to happen. I think that's what you should be looking forward to. And they did.
And I think they know. I think they ready to give it to us. Like, we ready to give it to y'all.
Like they say, it's been so many years since
it's been on air.
They've got so much saved up. It's been so long.
They had so much time to think about their past
transgressions and how they could possibly not wrong us
the second time. And they coming with it.
Look, we gonna try not to be that scornful ex and come back and hope that they don't hit us again.
Right? Yeah, I'm not there. I'm coming with an open heart. He's gonna take a little more time.
I've been burned. I'm sorry. I need to check your phone for a couple weeks to make sure. But we gonna get there. You're gonna regain this trust, and it's gonna be a loving relationship. I hope, because I want to love you again. I want to.
And then, unlike the Game of Thrones series, because Game of Thrones, it took a lot of people a while to get into it because it was kind of slow moving.
Niche too.
It was niche, yeah. It was niche and slow, and you needed to all of that background again because you just needed it. Yeah. But with this, they coming out with a punch and swing, so I think they're gonna swing this whole first season. I think they're gonna. I
feel like they have the right to as well because you don't really need to get people as warmed up as you used to with something like this. Like we got a lot more complex and different TV shows now when Game of Thrones came out, so I feel like they can just kind of go in a little bit rawer than what they need to do before. They don't need to be a soft an introduction. Like, yeah, y'all know what this is. It's different stuff, but it's the same playing field more or less.
When did Game of Thrones premiere?
2010.
Oh, really?
2011.
Okay, I had no idea because I just got up on it during the pandemic. But that makes sense too because TV at that time was different in all aspects. 2000. Wow, we were just about to graduate high school.
Put out the episode May 19th, 2019, close to my birthday.
Wow.
It's fine though. It's fine. It's fine. But yes, 2011 was a long time.
2022. TV was much different back then. Like you say, they can give it to us much rawer now in a lot of aspects.
It's nice that 10 years after the original series.
It came with this. It's lovely. I can't wait.
Excited.
I ain't gonna get too hyped up about it.
I might about some things.
I wanna not watch and let like a couple episodes build and watch, but then I'm like, got FOMO.
Part of me wanted to do that because with like a lot of the Disney plus Marvel stuff that comes out now, that's what I do. I let stuff stack like 3-4 episodes and then I watch it. But with this, and maybe just because it's close to home, and that's not to say Marvel isn't, but Marvel done burned me a little bit too much.
It's so much more.
Marvel ain't what it used to be. So Game of Thrones, I might keep under a closer vein. Plus, I want to kind of keep the consistent relevancy of just speaking on where the show's going as it's happening. Because that was one of the fun things about Game of Thrones, watching it when the first show premiered as it was happening, was the talks about what the show was as it was happening. Like,
but and he don't know how to stay out of them damn chat rooms and them blogs and whatnot for the spoilers. I don't really look into a lot of that stuff because I know You know how the technology is. The minute you type it in, it's gonna pop up everywhere.
That's
and
right.
I don't want people ruining it for me. I'm still on the fence. I might watch one more episode and let like 2 or 3 build up and then go from there. We'll see how.
We'll see how we go about it, but that's also might be a good idea. Just because, even though they're long, I wouldn't mind having 3 hours of this to binge. Just be like, all right, cool, let me catch up. Let's see. Let's see what we got, Damon. Don't let me down. Let's see what we got. Yeah. So I think we can, unless we have anything further.
Watch it. What's next on? Okay, I've got a question. What's next on your watch list? What's next on your watch list?
Other than Game of Thrones, next on my watch list. Well, though I'm hesitant about it because I've seen and heard some not so favorable things, I think the next thing on my watch list is going to be She-Hulk, the latest Marvel series.
Okay.
I'm not hearing the best things, but I'm going to, like I try to do with all things Marvel, go in with open eyes and open arms and hopefully see what they're talking about. So that will be my next watch, and my next both of our next reads will be the next game or next Hunger Games.
Yes, I haven't read a book in a long time.
I would absolutely love to do a book podcast episode review of that. I don't know. I know that'd be long, but even if we did like a chapter to chapter type of thing, we just check in and keep the pace of reading, right? All right, good. This is the first 3 chapters. What do we think?
Yeah, we can do it in chapters for sure.
Maybe look to that in the future.
That'll help me stick to reading the book and on a schedule and not taking
like
2 years to read
check in. Like, all right, look, we need to get to chapter 5 by this weekend to do that episode. So maybe we'll do that. That's be my watch and read. What about yours? What's your current watch at the moment?
Yeah, well, you just gave my read because that's my next read, and my next watch is gonna be Westworld.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna finally give it a shot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a shot. I've been hearing a lot about it.
After Game of Thrones, or as it was going on parallel, because Kit Harington's in it, the guy that plays Jon Snow.
Oh, okay.
It's one of his other things he gets a lot of notoriety for. He started transitioning to movies.
No wonder, yeah, a lot of people compare it to Game of Thrones, but I'm sure that's why.
Well, from what I hear, it's a lot of stuff going on in Westworld. It's a bunch of mind-F stuff going on. It's good, but it's a good type. Like, it's a diverse plot type of. It's going to take.
I love a good mind-F.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I've been wanting for a while to watch Westworld, but I keep never sitting down to do it, or I'll start something else, or I'll rewatch something I've seen 12 times and not do it. But, if you give me the best recommendation possible starting off, I think I could definitely get behind Westworld.
I haven't seen it at all, so I'm gonna watch it. I guess our joint watch list would be The Crown.
The Crown is excellent.
Because I was hoping that's what it was.
The Crown is. I was saying in the back of my mind.
It seems to not have really drawn you.
No, honest to God, it did. Okay. It's just sitting down to watch it. Because my thing is this, and this is the issue of just being a writer and appreciating stories too much. I watch a lot, and I watch too much. And because of it, I'm watching 23 things at once. That's not a good way to watch things. Don't do that. Watch 2, get through them, watch the next 2. It ain't going nowhere. Yeah. All you're going to miss is more episodes getting the mask, which is fine. But with me, I'll start watching 6 things, and they'll be interesting. So I'll be forgetting, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to come back tonight, and I'm going to watch 2 episodes of that, and I'm going to go back to this and watch that.
Too much,
and the 2 episodes won't happen, or I'll forget.
Or you get stuck in front of the TV.
Or I end up watching Sweeney Todd again. Sometimes you just end up watching Sweeney Todd. Yeah, you didn't
resurface that recently, I noticed. One more thing I want to add to the watch list that I watched earlier today, and then we can close on it, is Mike, which is Mike Tyson's unauthorized biographical story on Hulu.
Really? I hadn't heard about this.
Now, it's a lot of, okay, I watched it before I read any of the backlash.
Okay.
It was really good.
So, when you say, not unconfirmed, but is this
unauthorized? So Mike
Tyson similar to the Lakers thing with the Magic Johnson?
No, this is like a series. It's actually a mini series.
Oh no, I just mean like how Magic has been vocal and that they didn't directly reference all the. Is it like that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. It's just like it's not authorized, and like Whitney Houston's too.
Oh. Okay.
Where he didn't give permission, and he actually called.
How that stuff works? Like when you're famous, just the fact. When you're famous, I guess it's just a matter of certain aspects of your likeness are open for some type of production. It feels like you should have to clear that stuff though, but you see so many cases where you don't have to. I really wonder what aspect of how they can do that, or maybe if you belong to like a greater enterprise and you're a part of a grander story, you can tell their chapter of your chapter of their story. They have a right to tell type of thing. But even that feels like it'd be tricky.
That could be the case for the Magic Johnson one.
Yeah,
because it's about the Lakers dynasty. But it's called Mike.
Right.
It's about his life. The same with Whitney Houston. So and Aaliyah too. Remember, hers on Lifetime was unauthorized. And the only thing that I can say to that possibly is, a lot of athletes, artists, people in the industry, they sign contracts with people who owns part of their likeness. Because actually, this is the situation my brother is dealing with now, because he's a singer, where you can trademark your name and your likeness, and they can all be separate entities. You, your body, your person, you, your likeness, you, your business, and depending on who you're in business with and who name on their paperwork, depending on who can say and do what. Now, Mike Tyson is not saying, well, nobody's really saying how they're able to get away with this, but he definitely calling them out. Oh, yeah. He said that, they did an unauthorized story about him. They didn't want to pay him any money. They even reached out to somebody he's really close to that probably know everything about him and offered them $5 million, but didn't even offer him any money to do his own story or whatever. So
see, that makes me feel like it's narrative driven, and this was something vindictive that was done to try to push something out. Because in situations like that, and yes, I'm speaking with no knowledge.
You're in my head.
How about that?
We backing each other's heads.
Because I'm assuming with something like this, like you got to be narrative driven, because you have literally, if you're doing anything biographical and you have the benefit of the person being alive and you can reference them, there is no reason to not bring them in whatsoever, unless you're going out of your way to try to tell your version of their story. That's the only reason you don't reference people in situations like this. So as soon as you said that, I was like, somebody got to ask the ground with Mike Tyson.
That definitely makes me wonder too. And
a promoter, a manager, somebody
got their hands on his pot.
Somebody didn't get enough money from somebody, man.
Oh, well, okay, so the part 2 of this is that apparently for years, like several years now, since 2015, 16, Mike Tyson has been wanting to do an like a biopic of himself. He even picked Jamie Foxx to play him. This was back in 2015, and Jamie Foxx signed on to play him. But since then to now, it's been a lot of different producers and directors have exchanged the hands, basically. It was assigned, this person signed on, this producer signed on, they backed out, so they kept having to find new directors and producers for whatever reason. So that's just a little context. As you said, somebody is mad about something. Maybe they couldn't come into an agreement on the script, and maybe some people invested some money, and they was like, we getting this story out one way or another, but Mike Tyson is pissed about it, and so now, an update on that, Jamie Foxx is still signed on. They're planning to do CGI for his face and whatnot to do a younger Mike. Antoine Fuqua is the director. Is going to be the director of the new one, and Martin Scorsese is executive producer. And it's changed from a biopic to a series.
I would honestly prefer that, honestly.
And this is going to be, Mike Tyson's going to be hands-on and everything.
Okay.
So, but Mike so I found all of this out
after. Back to Mike. Mike is what has my attention. Mike with the nitty gritty is what I would want.
I don't know if it's nitty gritty. It might be that Hollywood bullshit, but it drew me in. I found out about all this after the fact. I was literally crying tears. I've been crying on everything, huh?
It's an emotional time in the world.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, it is. Yeah, the sadness energy came over me. It's I could relate for a lot of reasons. I know a lot of guys probably could relate, you included, about just the way that life takes you and your passions and family and your journey. And, it really shows the human side. More humane, even though Mike Tyson over the years has been showing a more human side.
But he still represents that iconic figure where he still feels like, a little larger than life in some aspects. And I like moments like that where we get to humanize those people and bring them down to a level where you can, observe them and see them in a more vulnerable state.
Absolutely.
It's humanizing and it's good for them and for us, I think. Good for them because I'm sure the anonymity that you got to give up to get to that position in life is.
You give up a lot.
Priceless.
You do. To create a persona, Iron Mike, and you get to see the other side.
Everything after that, party boy Mike.
Now I don't like the fact that they did it unauthorized. I don't like that, but I'm still gonna watch it, and I'm sorry, Mike Tyson, but I am. But I'm still gonna watch the one with Jamie Foxx too, because I mean it's Jamie Foxx, Martin Scorsese.
To that the Richard Pryor Bob that was supposed to with Mike Epps years ago that never surfaced, and I was waiting on that.
Still going on.
I keep hearing that, but I'm like, where's it going on? Where's it filming? Who's directing? I don't hear nothing about when something. I just said Mike Epps the only one I can hear it talk about it. I'm like, are you sure you just ain't making this? And ain't nobody else gave you the green light yet? You still doing press for 7 years?
Oh, I think something with Richard Pryor's family.
I heard that
is holding it up. I can't.
His estate probably got some reservations
children.
About, I recently, this is unrelated to this. We're supposed to be wrapping up, and I just want to understand this. This is how normal conversations go with us. I saw a random picture the other day of a blanket and Princess Michael Jackson.
This is definitely very random.
I was in a store and I was
okay.
That's what I asked myself when I saw it. I was like, "Blanket, where have you been, bro? Like, what happened to you?" I saw the window
thing.
They
talk about Blanket though. Usually Paris or Prince.
Yeah, that was it. And they were together, I guess, or like just out doing something. They got a picture of them in the press. And I was like,
didn't know that was Blanket. I ain't seen that nigga. I mean, that man and yes. Is he a nigga? Okay, I was gonna say
he's at least 25%. Right?
Is that Michael Jackson's kids though? Okay, that's another.
We're assuming that's Michael Jackson.
I mean biologically.
Yeah. I saw Blanket Jackson on the cover of a magazine. What's so funny?
You know what? Fuck it. We gonna claim him as a nigga because his daddy is a nigga. So
Blanket Jackson was out with his sister, and they were on the cover of a magazine. I was in, I think, a Walgreens, and it just caught my eye, and I stopped, and I was like, "Who is this with Paris, for instance? Who is this with Paris?" I recognize her face because again, we see her sometimes in the media, but I was like, the dude looked unfamiliar, and you know what's ironic? Who he looks like now? He looks like Ezra Miller. He got like long black. He looks like Ezra Miller from The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Oh, okay.
He looks like Creed.
He's always had his hair.
Ariela's.
Lincoln always had his hair.
It's like long now. He had a ponytail. He had this. He had like a Mike-esque outfit on. It was like this open coat suit with like these kind of like frolicky, not lapels. These lapels. The frolicky, whatever those are on your wrists. It felt like something Michael Jackson would.
Oh, okay.
He was just out with his sister, and they were just out on the town doing something. And it was just, I saw Blanket Jackson, so that was that made me think.
Yeah, we hardly ever see Blanket.
He was out. I was like, man, that damn window.
I know, right? That's how we.
I wonder if you remember that. How many times somebody told you?
Doesn't remember.
You don't know. It might be some traumatic flashback.
Damn near.
He got a fear of heights or something.
Though. Probably doing. Maybe that's don't even know it.
Maybe that's why we don't see Blanket. Maybe you got fear of heights and you can be in the crib.
Because their mom is one of the Presley, somebody Presley, Anna Marie.
Anna Marie?
No, I don't know. I think right. No?
Somewhere around there. Someone of Elvis's lineage married Michael Jackson.
Granddaughter, I think.
And they had kids, supposedly. These are their stories.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had. Now I'm just talking about people. So
right.
I
have to constantly remind myself. I don't have my children yet, so let me stop talking about other people's children. But no, then I have. I don't know. They his children. They his.
As far as we know, those are the King of Pop's kids.
Yeah, them his little niggas.
And we wish them the best.
Absolutely. It's good to see Blanket out.
God bless you, Blanket Jackson.
Yeah, hopefully.
It didn't even say Blanket Jackson on the thing. It just said Blanket. I wonder if he's still using his surname.
I mean, is he using his name for anything?
Most of the time I just hear Paris, but I know it's Paris Jackson.
She did American Horror Story, I think, if I'm not mistaken. She was doing some acting or something. Oh, not American. What the hell? She did Empire.
Really?
She did Empire. Yep. She played a music executive on Empire. Sure did. I knew she was on one of them Fox shows. But it wasn't American Horror Story. It was Empire. Yep. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, damn, I wonder all that talent Michael Jackson and his family had, and his kids aren't doing anything. But I just answered my own question because she did get into some acting and whatnot. She was trying to sing a little bit too on there and everything.
I think that I don't recall if what's it called was as well.
Prince, I don't know what he's up to, but I know him and Paris to do a red carpet every now and again. Yeah, Blanket never.
That's what made me. I literally stopped in my track shop. Like I was just like,
I didn't know that was him though. I'm very curious.
I just saw her face and I'm like, is Paris getting married?
Oh, he was in Paris.
I'm like, is Paris getting married? I stopped and it was just like blanket his back or some shit like that for the slug. And I was just like, the return of the blanket.
They need their butts whooped.
He named him that. That's his father's fault. He condoned that. Some Kanye shit before Kanye shit.
No, for real. Yeah, because Northwest, Saint
Northwest, Saint.
I could get with all of them except Northwest.
I was really Saint was the one that made the most sense.
I loved it. I like Psalm.
Yeah.
Psalm West. I like it. I'm all for a different name. I'm Marshall.
I'm just confident that most of the original names will just play off with the last name West, and we just like, yeah.
You know what? Around that time, though, everybody was naming their kids like
random,
wild shit. Like
I
remember Gwyneth Paltrow made headlines. She named her daughter Apple.
I knew it was something weird. I didn't know it was Apple.
It was Apple something else, and then they was naming Tony Braxton's sons are named Denim and Diesel. Which actually sounds like a great ass clothing line.
It sounds like they should be a couple of twin brother athletes. Like they should play football.
Right? they should drop a hot ass track. That new Denim and Diesel coming up next in about 5 minutes on your radio.
Like they give away gas on the radio?
Okay.
Gas and jeans giveaway?
I think Diesel actually is jeans. But anywho.
Right.
we
got the celebrity kiss. We're gonna go ahead and be ready to wrap that
another
up.
Topic for another day.
Right. We'll come back and do a special episode podcast for celebrity children and name choices and all that good stuff.
Celebrities.
General discussions. But thank you very much for one being on, you for coming in.
Giving me the eye.
Doing the episode. And thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you for having me.
And please look forward to definitely future House of Dragon episodes. We will be back to discuss this
maybe
episode.
in a couple weeks. We watch a couple episodes.
We'll amass an opinion and come back when we got a bigger sample size.
And